The late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny will be buried in Moscow today, but his team says they have faced continued difficulties organising the farewell send-off. Leaders of Western Balkan countries agreed on Thursday to speed up regional cooperation in exchange for a €6 billion aid package from the EU.
Iran's parliamentary elections have begun with the likelihood of a low turnout as many candidates are barred from running.
The late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny will be buried in Moscow today, but Navalny's team have said they continue to face difficulties organising the farewell send-off, including being able to find a hearse to drive the body to church. Kira Yarmish, Navalny's press secretary, said unknown people were calling mortuaries and threatening them if they accepted Navalny's body. Many who want to say goodbye are worried about the consequences.
Я знаю, что я должен прийти, а завтра я боюсь. А сегодня пришел.
Authorities have prepared heavily for the service, due to take place in the Mariino municipality of southeastern Moscow, where Navalny lived. The church and adjoining cemetery will have a heavy police presence, while whole neighbourhoods nearby are cordoned off with a portable metal fence. At the church's doors, there are announcements warning against photos and videos. Leaders of Western Balkan countries agreed on Thursday to speed up cooperation in exchange for a €6 billion aid package. They also hope it may speed up the union membership process. The package is an effort to double the region's economy over the next decade, but EU Enlargement Commissioner Oliver Vahely said the funds did not mean the states could join the single market.
It would be unfair to ask our Western Balkan partners to participate in the single market where they have less power to compete compared to our companies. This is why we are also dedicating an additional funding to this plan to help all the reforms that are necessary to get these reforms done, because most of these reforms are also coming at cost, financial cost.
The region's 6 countries, Albania, Bosnia, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia and Serbia, are all at varying stages of their EU membership applications. They will cooperate on unifying financial regulations, adapting their customs rules and creating joint border crossings like the bloc's other member countries.
A trial of the 2018 attack on a Christmas market in Strasbourg has begun in Paris. 4 suspects are accused of terrorism, criminal conspiracy and provision of weapons to the attacker. On December the 11th, 2018, Sheriff Shakat opened fire in central Strasbourg near the Christmas market, killing 5 people and wounding 11 more. He managed to escape the scene, but was shot dead by police 2 days later. Shakat was well known to the police, but was not connected to any terrorism activities before the attack.
With the European elections just 100 days away, Euronews took the streets of Brussels to see if people knew when to mark their calendars to elect their MEPs who will be representing them for the next 5 years.
Do you know when the European elections are?
I don't know.
No, pas du tout.
This year. Okay, but I don't know the month.
C'est en octobre, non? Ou novembre, un truc comme ça?
In June.
June?
Yes, in June.
This year, month of June.
Mais en tout cas, j'ai l'intention d'aller voter, oui, ça c'est sûr.
These elections are taking place in a tense time as the EU faces several crises, such as the war in Ukraine and the inflation. Citizens have different priorities for their next European Parliament.
Well, I guess ecology, that's very important.
El cambio climático, que se reunieron pero no arreglaron nada.
Maybe talk about Palestine and what's going on over there.
They need to discuss Palestine.
Qu'on vive de nouveau en paix.
Less liberal, more social.
Les pays ont envie de se refermer sur eux-mêmes. Cette montée du nationalisme me fait peur.
I do hope that the extremes won't be there.
Do you plan on voting this year?
I probably will, yes.
Ah, je m'intéresse pas du tout à ça. Je suis désolée.
Local buses, trams and subway trains have come to a halt in much of Germany as transport employees carry out another two-day strike. They're calling for better working conditions, including shorter working weeks and extra compensation for shift and night work. Such short warning strikes are a common tactic in German contract negotiations. They've frustrated travellers and commuters.
Man muss natürlich beide Seiten sehen und man kann verstehen, dass die Menschen, die bei der KVB arbeiten, eben auch entsprechend bezahlt werden wollen und dafür eben auch entsprechend handeln.
Aber dass man dann dauernd immer wieder streitet, das finde ich dann unfair. Also gegenüber die Menschen, die halt auch den Nahverkehr auch fahren. Ne?
The union Verdi called for the 48-hour warning strike in the ongoing nationwide wage dispute in regional negotiations. The walkout coincides with weeks of rail, airport and local transport strikes across the country.
Die blutigen Bandenkriege rivalisierender Drogenkartelle hier in Frankreich finden kein Ende. 49 Menschen wurden im vergangenen Jahr allein hier in Marseille ermordet. Ja, die Leute in den Vorstädten sind verzweifelt.
Il s'est pris une rafale de 5 balles de Kalachnikov dans le thorax, donc vous pensez bien qu'il n'a pas pu survivre à ça. Ces monstres, je pense, l'ont pris pour un guetteur. Ils ont vu deux gosses en survêt et les ont allumés, quoi. Un petit Marseillais, à l'heure d'aujourd'hui, peut mourir sous des balles, comme dans un pays comme le Mexique, pays des cartels, alors qu'on est en France, quoi.
J'ai trouvé les jeunes ici autour du feu, ils me connaissaient, je leur ai dit clairement, je dis les gars, vous allez vous faire tuer, vous allez vous faire descendre, c'est chaud, il y a la guerre en ce moment. Puis le lendemain, j'ai appris qu'un des jeunes en question s'est fait tuer. Et dimanche, je suis retourné le voir sur son lit de morgue, ça m'a fait drôle. Hein.
Le trafic de stupéfiants générerait en France 3 milliards d'euros de chiffre d'affaires. Cet argent coule à flot, cet argent peut permettre de corrompre. J'ai régulièrement des séquestrations, des enlèvements, des tortures, parce que le jeune vendeur de drogue, il a volé 20 € au réseau pour s'acheter un sandwich. Cet argent tue.
One in every 8 people worldwide is now living with obesity, according to the World Health Organization. The situation is worrying. The number of overweight people has surpassed 1 billion for the first time in history. Whilst malnutrition rates have dropped, it is still a public health challenge in many places, particularly in Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. The research comes ahead of World Obesity Day on the 4th of March. The region of Sicily has declared a state of emergency as it battles one of the worst droughts in almost 20 years.
Iran's supreme religious leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was the first to cast his ballot as the country goes to the polls in a parliamentary election. The vote is the first since mass protest erupted in 2022 over the death of a young woman in police custody. She had been accused of not complying with the regime's mandatory hijab laws. With most high-profile moderate candidates barred from standing and amid opposition calls for a boycott, a low turnout is a strong possibility. Such an outcome would increase pressure on Iran's rulers as the Islamic Republic's theocracy bases its legitimacy in part on turnout in elections. The parliament has been dominated by religious hardliners for the past 2 decades and little change is expected, regardless of the level of abstention. The vote is also for the Assembly of Experts, a panel of clerics who select the country's Ayatollah.
French actress Judith Godrèche has called for politicians to establish a commission to investigate sex crimes and sexism in French cinema. She was speaking at the French Senate's delegation on women's rights.
In this country, I feel that it's not just the men who are the abuser, who are trying to shut down the women, it's the society, which for me is bizarre. And obviously it's what I'm fighting, and this is why I found myself talking and talking over again. I think there's something about French society that somehow is still anchored into like Moyen Age, you know.
Her speech comes just days after she called on France's film industry to face the truth on sexual violence and physical abuse during the César Awards ceremony. Godrèche was invited to speak after actors alleged they were teenage victims of sexual abuse by directors decades older than themselves. The actress recently accused 2 film directors of rape and sexual abuse when she was a teenager.
At least 43 people died after a massive fire broke out at a shopping centre in the capital of Dakar late on Thursday. More than a dozen fire engines were called to a 7th-floor building as the fire spread quickly, trapping dozens of visitors. People climbed on the roof to await rescue, whilst others escaped through windows and by climbing down using water pipes. 75 were evacuated and taken to hospital. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.